At 10 p.m. on the night of June 6, 2000, in the small, quaint Italian town of Chiavenna, Sister Maria Laura Mainetti received an urgent phone call from a young girl named Milena. Milena had been raped and now carried the child of her attacker. Her family wanted her to have an abortion, but Milena wanted to keep the child. She had no one to turn to. Sister Maria had been her teacher in school, and she trusted her. Milena wanted to know now, would Sister Maria help her? For Sister Maria, it was unequivocal. She would. They arranged to meet that night at the Piazza Castello, a place chosen by Milena. And as soon as the call ended, Sister Maria quickly left her residence to meet up with the young, distraught woman. And on her way out, she passed the parish archpriest, Don Ambrogio Bellotti, and told him where she was going. There was something about it that made the archpriest feel uneasy, and he cautioned Sister Maria about going. But the nun was adamant, this girl must be helped. The archpriest offered to accompany her, but Sister Maria refused. She didn't want to scare off the young woman. And with that, the nun and the archpriest parted ways. It would be the last time that anyone would speak with Sister Maria. The following morning, Sister Maria's body was discovered in a nearby park. It was broken and bloodied. She had been stabbed 19 times, and her clenched fists still held the hair of her attackers. And when her murderers were finally apprehended, it would send shockwaves throughout the small community that would reverberate throughout Italy and the Catholic Church. In recent years, news media has begun to reevaluate and deconstruct the Satanic Panic, a bout of mass hysteria that afflicted the United States for over a decade. But what if it wasn't just hysteria? What if some of it was true? Ritual Rewind brings you into the darkest corners of the 1980s, uncovering the crimes, conspiracies, and occult fears that shaped a generation. Tonight, we jump forward in time to the year 2000 and delve into the brutal murder of Sister Maria Laura Mainetti. We've all heard the phrase, idle hands are the devil's tools, and this tale is the epitome of that idiom. It's the case of the devil and the three girls. I'm your host, Drew, and you're listening to The Ritual Rewind.
Pope Francis has declared an Italian religious sister killed by 3 teenage girls in a satanic ritual was a martyr for the Catholic faith, thus paving the way for her beatification. 60-year-old Sister Maria Laura Mainetti was stabbed to death in a park in the town of Chiavenna in the northern region of Lombardy back in June 2000. Her 3 assailants repeatedly stabbed Sister Maria, who, it is said, prayed for her killers throughout the fatal attack. In fact, her last words, according to some accounts of her death, were, "Lord, forgive them." The 3 girls were subsequently imprisoned for their crimes.
Late-night calls from distressed young women were nothing new for Sister Maria. She had dedicated her entire life to nurturing and caring for those excluded by society, particularly drug addicts, juvenile delinquents, and the poor and sex workers that populated her community. And she often left her convent on late-night tours of the parks and streets around Chiavenna. Chiavenna is a small village in northern Italy, located in the Alpine Valley near the Swiss border. And Sister Maria had been appointed Mother Superior of this community in 1987. There, she ran a boarding school for delinquent young girls, and it was where she would meet her killers. Sister Maria was born on August 20th, 1939, in Colico, Lombardy. Her mother died of complications during her birth, and it was because of those complications that Sister Maria was always frail and sickly, even into adulthood. Her fragility was further exacerbated by a bout of tuberculosis in her teenage years. But her illness didn't stop Sister Maria's faithfulness to the church or to the Lord. Even as a young girl, her dedication caught the attention of another nun who also happened to go by the name Sister Maria Amelia. The nun took a liking to the young girl and connected her to a wealthy benefactor that offered to pay for Sister Maria's secondary education. Sister Maria studied at the Laura San Pital Institute, a university run by the Daughters of the Cross. And by the time that she had finished her education, she had found her calling. She would join the Daughters of the Cross. Later, when asked why, Sister Maria recalled that a priest once told her after confession, "You must do something beautiful for others." And with those words, she found meaning: to serve others. Her sisters at the convent would go on to say, despite her frail constitution, she was always the first to offer herself for any kind of service. She was attentive to others and oblivious to herself. She chose all the lowliest tasks. She was gentle and humble in her ways and made everyone feel loved and valued. She served most of her career as an elementary school teacher before transitioning to that of an administrator when she transferred to the school in Chiavenna. Sister Maria saw the youth as fragile, disoriented, and subject to manipulation, and she strove to inspire them, restore their confidence, and also, if necessary, to correct them. A former student spoke of Sister Maria in an affectionate way. She was strict when it came to our late-night excursions in the dormitory, but she was also cheerful and took part in our jokes and games. Sister Maria's murder was initially blamed on the drug addicts that often loitered around the area. But in a shocking twist, on June 29, 2000, 3 weeks following the murder of Sister Maria, the police arrested 3 teenage girls: Amber Giannasso, 17, Milena di Giambattista, 16, and Veronica Petriobelli, 17. A witness had come forward and tipped off the police to the young women, stating that he had seen the girls with Sister Maria on the night of her murder. Police tapped the teenage girls' phones and listened as they discussed the murder amongst themselves. But what was even more shocking than 3 underage girls being accused of murder was that these 3 girls had all been taught their catechisms by Sister Maria herself. The 3 girls came from middle-class families and had no history of violence. And soon after the arrest, the police searched the girls' rooms and discovered disturbing evidence inside their diaries. Their diaries were filled with satanic imagery and pictures of rock star Marilyn Manson, who was a self-described great adorer of Satan. For those that don't know, Marilyn Manson was an American rock musician born Brian Warner. His stage name came about by combining the names of Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson, and he has been a controversial figure in music since his debut. Sister Maria was murdered just a little over a year after the Columbine shootings, in which the blame for the horrific events that unfolded was laid at the feet of violent video games, movies, and music, of which, coincidentally, included Marilyn Manson. Sister Maria's murder similarly provoked the question of the effects of violent media on youth. Carlo Clementi, a self-appointed music expert and author of the book Inquiry on Satanic Rock, said this: "On its own, the negative message given in the recording cannot force one to violence or murder, but at times, it could be a seed sown in the fertile ground of juvenile unrest. It's a dangerous cocktail of nihilist rock and human problems that produce devastating effects in the minds of the youths who are in crisis or psychologically disturbed. The devil can be good business, and record studios continue to put out a certain kind of product out in the market without worrying about the consequences." And to be fair, the fear wasn't completely unfounded. A young man from nearby La Spezia had recently been caught making nocturnal visits to cemeteries, digging up graves, and stealing the skulls and bones. He admitted to police that he had allowed himself to be seduced by heavy metal music, and he claimed that it had such a hold on him that he did not realize the extent of his actions. And in Norway in the early 90s, black metal music bands gained popularity throughout the nation. Members of the groups organized attacks on the Catholic churches. A lead singer of one of the bands, who went by the stage name Euronymous, portrayed himself as a militant devil worshiper and sought to spread hatred and evil. Euronymous was later murdered by another black metal music band leader, Varg Vikernes, who went by the stage name Count Grishnok. And after the murder, he proclaimed the end of Christianity had begun. He served 12 years of a 21-year sentence and then released 3 more albums. Back in Chiavenna, the police interrogated the 3 teenage girls for hours in front of prosecutors and a psychologist. The girls were soon to confess. They said, "We lured the sister into a trap and killed her. We wanted to do something out of the ordinary and experience thrilling sensations." The idea of killing Sister Maria began at a cafe one afternoon. It was where the girls spent most of their days with a beer and nothing else to do. Amber was the first one to come up with the idea to sacrifice someone to Satan. At that time, the 3 girls felt alienated from their families, and in fact, Veronica had been segregated from her immediate family the year prior to the murder, for reasons unknown. And it is rumored that the girls often practiced self-harm, such as cutting. Though many now would consider these acts as cries for help, the police felt these marks were signs to the devil. The girls had been introduced to the occult through magazines that had circulated amongst their classmates, and they listened to black metal music, which was popular in their age group. but they also took it further, often attempting to invoke evil spirits through rituals that involved them speaking Catholic prayers in reverse. They also stole and burned a Bible in front of a church and entered into a blood pact, binding them together with Satan. Their diaries included numerous invocations to the devil, along with drawings of inverted crosses and pentagrams. Of the matter, Veronica would say this: "We were 16, sitting every day with a beer for 6 hours with nothing to do. We considered everything we did, thought, and said as worthless. For the girls, life had no meaning. And initially, the girls had planned to kill Father Ambrogio, but they thought he was too fat and too big, and they would never be able to control him. And therefore, they decided the nun would be much easier." Milena admitted to calling Sister Marie at the convent, begging her for help. She spun a sordid tale of having been raped and impregnated. She said her family wanted her to have an abortion, but she did not. This, of course, was a ruse. There was no rape, there was no pregnancy. They just needed a way to lure Sister Maria to a secluded place, where the three girls, Amber, Veronica, and Milena, would attack. And on that night, the three girls dressed all in black and waited for Sister Maria's arrival. When Sister Maria arrived, she was surprised to see the other two girls there. In person, Veronica took the lead. She was now the girl in distress. She waved off the nun's concerns. Her friends had accompanied her there to make sure she was safe. Veronica then told Sister Maria that her stuff was in her friend's car and they needed to go retrieve it. Sister Maria agreed and followed the girls into a dark alley. That is where they attacked. Milena struck Sister Maria with a brick. Then Amber slammed the nun's head into a wall several times. Veronica pulled a kitchen knife out of her bag, and the three girls forced Sister Maria to her feet and led her to a nearby park along the cliffside. It's here, according to local lore, that a gateway to hell was formed by the devil himself in an attempt to escape the Virgin Mary. Once they arrived, they pushed Sister Maria to her knees, then cursed and insulted her, screaming,
"Die, you bastard nun. You have to take this bastard out of her."
They then stabbed her repeatedly. It was supposed to be only 18 strikes, 6 for each of them, culminating to the devil's number of 666. Sister Maria pleaded with the girls and begged for mercy. She promised not to report them to the police, but the girls denied the nun any mercy. And as she lay bleeding to death, Sister Marie cried out, "Lord, forgive them. They know not what they do." It was the same prayer that Christ gave at his crucifixion, and it would be the last words Sister Maria ever spoke. After the murder, the girls returned home to their parents. They appeared calm and relaxed, and when asked where they had been, the girls lied and said they had been out to eat at a restaurant. During the initial trial, Amber was deemed irresponsible due to her youth and mental aberrations. However, this ruling was overturned on appeal. The prosecutor was able to prove that the three girls were fully aware of the gravity of their acts and that they had deliberately chosen to kill. No adult had suggested the crime to them. They were its sole instigators, and they had not shown the slightest sign of remorse since their arrest. And in the end, all three girls were found guilty, and none of them visibly reacted to the verdict. Amber, who was considered the director of the murder, was sentenced to 12 years. Veronica and Milena were sentenced to 8, but their sentences were later reduced because the court determined that they were partially insane at the time of the crime. The three girls have since been released from prison and given new identities. At the end of trial, the judge would say they turned against the Catholic Church and decided to punish it. It was the triumph of emptiness. They wanted to strike against mercy. Sister Maria signified welcome, repentance, and humility. Their sole motive was to encounter Satan and obtain from him a manifestation of his existence and power. To this end, they decided to sacrifice an innocent victim to Satan. The devil, who had seduced and deceived the murderers of Sister Maria, suffered defeat precisely where he had expected to triumph. The martyr's heroic act of forgiveness is now known and celebrated all over the world. Veronica was the first to be released from prison 8 years after the murder. At the time, she was 25. She was released at first under the care of the community. She spoke of the murder after her release and still has no idea what drove her to kill. But she says, in the end, it saved her. "I feel guilty when I say it, but the tragedy saved me from my teenage years. Prison, psychologists, and the recovery community have allowed me to become the person I otherwise would never have been." Milena was released 2 years later. She wrote, "I deceived Sister Maria by drawing her into a trap. And then I killed her. And while we were doing this, she forgave us. I can only have a memory of love. It also allowed me to believe in something that is neither God nor Satan, but which was a simple woman who defeated evil. Now in her, I find the comfort and the grace to endure everything, and I am sure she will help me become a better person. Amber was the last to be released. In prison, she had continued her education and earned a law degree. She prefers not to talk about her future or her past. On the anniversary of her death in 2021, Sister Maria Laura Mainetti was given the rite of beatification with the recognition of martyrdom. It was a life given twice, loving and forgiving. Pope Francis commended the beatification, adding, "She was killed 21 years ago in hatred of the faith by 3 young women influenced by a satanic sect. She, who loved young people more than anything and who loved and forgave the same girls imprisoned by evil, leaves us her program for life. Do every little thing with faith, love, and enthusiasm." And on her altar was a reliquary holding a rock stained with Sister Maria's blood. It had been found where she had been killed. Only a few days before her death, Sister Maria wrote to a grieving family, "Who are we to want to fathom, to explain, to understand the plans of God the Father, which were fulfilled even out of human wickedness? This is exactly what happened to Jesus. All that happens is in accordance with a plan of love, a plan of salvation." She confided with Father Ambrogio Bellotti about her desire to give everything. He added, "She understood that many times we give ourselves to others, but we always keep something back for ourselves." She then said that only in martyrdom do we succeed in giving everything, even our own lives. In researching this episode, we relied on the articles from the newspapers La Repubblica, Il Giornale, and The Guardian. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Ritual Rewind. I'm looking to grow this podcast, so if you like it, please rate it and review it. If you're listening to this on YouTube, give it a like and comment. And as always, you can interact with us at the Ritual Rewind on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And as this is a podcast about when cassette culture met cult culture, please stay tuned for this week's movie pairing after this short break.
This week's film recommendation is the 1982 television movie Mazes and Monsters. Commissioned by CBS, it's based on the novel of the same name by Rona Jaffe. It stars Tom Hanks in one of his first roles. It tells the story of a college student and his friends who get too wrapped up in a role-playing game based heavily on Dungeons & Dragons. The TV movie was reviewed well at the time, but now can't be seen as anything more than laughable in its characters, stories, and dialogue, though the third act was pleasantly unexpected. With its poor production values, I can't give this film more than 1 VHS tape out of 5, and can only recommend it as a curiosity viewing.